Good morning. Nice of you guys to drop by.
What a piece of junk. What are you talking about?
Don't be too proud of this technological terror you've constructed.
Look, don't worry. Everything's gonna be fine. Trust me.
I don't know what all this trouble is about, but I'm sure it must be your fault. Don't get technical with me.
This bickering is pointless.
Don't everybody thank me at once.
I don't know where you get your delusions, laser brain.
I'm glad you're here to tell us these things.
How could you even say that?
I got a bad feeling about this.
Well, come on.
Everything's perfectly all right now. We're fine. We're all fine here now. Thank you. How are you?
Would you get going, you pirate?
Get in there, you big furry-o! I don't care what you smell!
I'm getting too old for this sort of thing.
If what you've told me is true, you will have gained my trust.
I like the sound of that.
Get a shuttle ready.
I don't know. Fly casual.
Shuttle Tydirium, what is your cargo and destination?
Transmission commencing.
Hello, everybody. Thanks once again for listening to the Shuttle Tydirium. I am your captain, Captain Stubings. Captain Jim Chadwick, also known as Hey Chadwick on the forums. I have with me, sitting next to me here in the cockpit, is Philip Meade.
Good morning, everybody. I'd just like to remind all our passengers that Imperial regulations prohibit the use of wireless devices while we're in flight. Please set all communicators and droids to Starship mode. Thank you.
And make sure you put those restraining bolts on those droids, because they will activate themselves. And speaking of restraining bolts and droids, we have J-Bot, Jonathan Pierce, who's our cranky protocol droid.
I'm always in wireless mode. I cannot be stopped.
And last, but certainly not least, because he makes us run, is Jake Freed, who is our chief engineer.
Thanks a lot, Jim. And, I do have to tell you, it is hard to keep this thing running smoothly. You put a lot of stress on my ship. And one of these days, and I feel like it's going to be soon, I'm going to need to put this ship into dry dock in orbit over Endor. And I'm going to have to leave you guys down there to, just get some R&R. But I'm going to have to fix this ship up, get the Minoc fluid off the windshield. You know what I mean?
Well, you've got the Gonk droid helping you out, right?
The Gonk droid has been a great help, I do have to say.
When the Gonk droid's not running around recharging devices for all the teenagers out there, I swear.
And turning on all the wireless bots, all the wireless droids, it's insanity.
Or getting shot by me.
Hey.
Or all the cyborgs out there constantly getting their limbs recharged. Sheesh, what do we look like? All right. But anyways, thanks everybody for making it once again. And I'm excited about tonight's episode because we're going to be talking about the new Wave 9 information that's just released as of today, actually, for recording. And it's excellent that FFG knows our recording schedule because they obviously listen to us and pay homage to us. But they release the news the day of our recording, which is fantastic. Thank you, FFG. We appreciate it. Thank you for a great game.
Yeah,
much
it's not like
timing.
We're working together or anything. Wink, wink.
Many Boffins died.
Oh, yes.
All right, so first off, my captain's question is something that, kind of gives an overall view of each of us, but basically, when do you actually get to play X-Wing? And, how often and where? That kind of when do you actually get to play this dang game? And I'll go to my co-pilot, Philip Meade.
All right. So most of how I play ends up being with friends that I either have over at the apartment or I go and visit. And we play games in our living rooms or whatever, and those are more often than not scenarios. Sometimes they're straightforward, 100-point games. Sometimes we'll go out to local game stores. I haven't had time to do that recently, but the other source of my gaming is on Vassal. I am playing in the Vassal League that was organized on Reddit. And
wait, before you get in the Vassal, I do have a question because you're in New York City.
Yeah.
And I always see in movies and TV shows all the guys in the park that are playing chess. Do you guys also have a bunch of X-wingers lined up as well?
There were people playing in a like an atrium where they have like a bunch of shops selling food.
Really?
And these guys would put tables together. Yeah, but it was in a different part of town than me, so I never went. But I did hear about it.
That's pretty cool. So. Excellent. All right, so they can go about Vassal. So
I'm playing in the Vassal League now. I'm getting my butt kicked. I think I'm 2-3 or 4 right now. I'm getting stomped by Pal Bases. That's the extent of that story. And I also play with Jake on Vassal because Jake lives in a different part of the state, and we get our
far away.
Yeah, we get our Heroes of Atari Cluster games in that way.
Yes,
and that's how I get my games in.
All right. So would you say you play more in-person games or more Vassal games? Or does it depend on like the week?
Yeah, it depends. But at the moment, I think it's more Vassal.
Okay. And nothing on a regular basis, just kind of whenever you can.
Right. Yeah, it's when I can get them in.
Right. Shuttle, flying back and forth. You know,
right.
You're always in and out. Airport.
Just with the shuttle, yeah. Keeps me busy.
Time zone change, all that, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so then Jake, let me go to you next.
Sure. So it used to be 3 different ways that I got my games, and now it's kind of dwindled to 2 different ways since I made the big move up north. The 3 different ways that I used to do were, playing in person at either various gaming clubs, or I would play at home with my wife, or I would play on Vassal. And since I moved, I've no longer really gone out and played at these gaming clubs. And one of the reasons was because I actually really enjoyed playing with Phil when I kind of lived near him. And that was he was my guy he got me out of the house. Let's put it that way. He would get me off my butt, out of the house, meet new people, blow up some ships. It was fun times. Now he's not here to hold my hand, so I'm kind of a little hobbit in the basement on the computer doing Vassal games. But I try and play, whenever I can. It doesn't always come up as a priority in my gaming life. But when I do play, and I play with Phil on Vassal doing the Atari Cluster campaign that we were mentioning, which is a lot of fun. When I play at home with my wife, we'll either play the standard 100-point game, or what she and I like to do a lot of times is just something kind of unconventional, very casual, which is good for this podcast. And we'll either have her or me. We choose one ship. So we'll take turns. So let's say it's my turn. I'll choose one ship with one pilot and however many upgrades I want. And I only get one ship. And then then we tally up how many points I spent on that one ship, and then she gets to spend all those points on a list, and she doesn't get to be restricted to just one ship. So if I made a 50-point list with one ship, she might be able to make, a list of 3 different ships on generic pilots, with easy skills. So we kind of switch back and forth doing that, just to kind of see how we can manage a small, either one ship or just very small squad trying to beat the other one. So we've had fun with that.
Can I say it is pretty cool that you get to play with your wife? But
yes.
Does it ever cause any marital, non-bliss? That you beat her or something? And
that's a great question. And I'd be lying if I said every once in a while we didn't bump heads. I end up being maybe a little bit too competitive when I'm starting to get on the losing face. She always says, it doesn't look like you're having fun. And I'm like, no, I'm having fun. Just roll the dice.
When my wife tells me I'm badgering our kid, when we were playing Candyland when they were younger, I'm like, come on, hurry up. It's my turn already, is it? That's not how you play. My wife would always get in my case. I'm perhaps a little too competitive.
Perhaps. But that's just one perspective. One person's opinion.
They need to learn the rules, dang it. You can't just quit the Queen Frostine. There are rules here. That's how society works.
Get out the Candyland codexes.
Yeah, that would be great.
Right. Now, I do have to say that I have to actually, my Thursday nights is usually getting away from the family, the wife and kids, and going to play. So it's kind of interesting that you guys actually get to play with your wife. And I can see the pros and cons with it, because on one hand, it can be your thing to get away, but when it's your thing to do with, you can't use it to get away as well. So
that's true. A lazy butt like myself, it does help that I don't have to leave the comfort of my house. I can use my own bathroom, which is awesome. I can get my own snacks, which are free, which is awesome. And then if I'm starting to get tired, it's like, oh, is that my bed just upstairs? Yeah, it is. Okay, cool. I'm gonna go there.
Cool. Excellent. All right. Well, that's good to know. And so, J-Bot, Jonathan Pierce, where do you go and play X?
You probably already know this. Jim and I actually play at one of our local gaming stores here. I guess it's relatively local, depending on the two of us. But I got dragged into it by him. That just happened to be the store that was closest to where I live, and I go there basically
it's the best
every
store in the area.
To me, it feels like it is, and I've been to a bunch of them all over, I guess, North Carolina, just in my travels. And to me, it's the best one I've come across. There's probably, I hear tales of a bright, beautiful, gleaming city on the other side of the state that I've never been to, but for me, that's the best one. But it's basically every Thursday night, I go play at least one game, depending on how badly I get beaten and how frustrated I am. It might be 2 games. With the Atari cluster stuff, I try and get at least one of those in if possible, because it's hard to be frustrated at that, although I still can get frustrated at that. But that seems to be my motto is I can get frustrated at it. Just give me time. And but yeah, that's pretty much the only time I play is our Thursday night games. I know Jim and I have played on a weekend once to kind of prep for the show, but other than that, it's pretty much just the in-person at the gaming store once a week. So it's rather something that I look forward to get myself out of the house. Otherwise, I sit here and play video games.
Yep, there you go.
Right. And we might actually try this weekend. I have to get with you on that offline. But also, there's some other guys, some different group that kind of plays on a regular basis on Saturdays, the Heroes of the Atari Cluster. And have you actually played with them before, or?
I've been by the store on the Saturday, and Saturday is kind of a hodgepodge day at our local store, where if you go in there at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you've got a table of people playing 40K. There could be a table of people playing some home brewed like Civil War naval battle that takes up like 20 tables, and there could be people painting. I mean, it's actually a lot of life, if that makes sense.
Wait,
but yeah,
they're often wind gauge. Before I fire, we need to check wind gauge to see how it affects my shot.
Hey, don't hate on those people, because I've looked at that and like, that looks like so much fun. Even though they have like a notebook for every ship, it still looks like a lot of fun. I'm like, ooh, I might be able to play this game. But yeah, I see them there. I haven't actually played with them because normally I'm just stopping by to buy gaming supplies, and not actually there to camp out for hours and hours.
Well, I will say that there is a store in Durham, which we're in North Carolina, and Durham is about 3 hours away, and the Regionals was there. And it actually was an old Kmart that's been converted into a game store. So it's huge. I mean, they have like 100 and whatever plus person tournaments of these things. And there's room, and there's still room for like other games to happen. And I know they have like an online store. They even have a bar that serves like craft beer, like good beer, not like Bud or whatever. And that to me, I think is the best game store in the state. But once again, it's 3 hours away. So I do like my local comic game shop, PBKW, Parker, Banner, Kent, and Wayne. So shout out to those guys. But not to diss any of the many other Charlotte regional game stores. So it just happens to be the one that's where I went for Warhammer, and that owner has kind of been very kind to the very gaming community, and it's closest to me, so that's where I tend to go. Excellent. So for me as well, I go on Thursday nights. Thursday nights is pretty much my night, and I'm married with kids, and one's a teenager and one's not quite there, and they're both active in other activities, and lots of things happen, such as tonight, some sort of marching band incident where my wife is involved in the organization to the parent structure, and then my daughter is the drum major, and so they both had to run off to some marching band thing, and I had to watch my son. And wow, it was great to hang out with my son, and we watched Doctor Who or something, Rebels. If I look back at the past 4 weeks, I've got the game 1 week, and it's kind of frustrating. So it doesn't always happen, but why is it that parental things happen on Thursday night? Like, dang it, that's my game night. And I tried Vassalons earlier, and I haven't tried it since. And so unless I do things on the weekend where the wife isn't trying to plan something, Thursday nights is my night. And rarely, like now, they just terrible things happen, and I can't play a lot, which is kind of frustrating. I love the game so much, I do a podcast for it. Yet I don't have the time to play it, it kills me. Yeah, so that's why when I find myself on conference call times at work, when things kind of get a bit out of my purview, I might happen to spend maybe a bit too much time on the FFG forums. And spending time on the forums, though, you do learn all sorts of interesting bits of news. Like, did you know that first some people leaked online from Europe, so apparently there's some sort of conference where FFG CEO showed some ships, all the Wave 9 ships. And then, boom, hours later, FFG does a news article, Wave 9 ships, now here. It's called Stay in Attack Formation. Stay in Attack Formation.
Yeah, and I'll note that somebody's also leaked a cell phone picture of the actual Wave 9 ships in boxes, physically in boxes. So they exist in the final product form in some capacity already, which is very surprising.
Though they do say quarter three of 2016, so this year, probably, I think it said late 2016, so that means like Thanksgiving / December is when we can expect it.
That's what I would expect, yeah. Unless they break character entirely and release on time in quarter 3.
Yeah. Right, and I will say, a lot of people online on the forums were complaining about, look at Imperial Veterans, it's so late. And, okay, I remember when there were dock worker strikes and all sorts of issues and problems with manufacturing in China, and things were really late. We're talking like months late. You couldn't, like, when J-Bot joined, he couldn't buy things because there weren't ships on the shelves. And they always say it's like 8 to 12 weeks from when they announce things are on the boat to when you can see it. And I think week 8 was the end of May, which means that Imperial Veterans isn't here, but we still have the entire month of June to go through, and it's still on time until the end of June. So for all you people who like harumph and complain about things being late, we're actually still on schedule. Don't complain yet. Wait until we hit July. Then you can start complaining.
Yeah. Wait till July, and then we can unleash hell on these people for being one day late.
Get all the restraining bolts.
Yeah. This is the internet. This is the realm of my people. You need to understand how this works. When a game you're waiting for like 3 years suddenly delays it by a month to make sure it works, we demand death threats. I will have some of my people death threat you for delaying a game I can't wait to play, sort of thing. And if you're not aware of what I'm talking about No Man's Sky, but that's a different channel. Yes, there were actual death threats against the creators of that game because they decided to push it back to fix bugs. Yeah. Yes, that's the level we got to.
I don't know, man.
If there's some sort of game balance or bugs, they'll get death threats for that too. So
it has a no-win situation.
They probably got $80 on this. They probably got fewer death threats this way around. It's a calculation these days. There's no zero death threat choice except like perform perfectly at expectations.
I need that like on a bumper sticker. There are no zero death threat choices.
I thought you already did.
Oh man,
maybe I need another one.
T-shirts.
Yeah,
we gotta make T-shirts of J-Bot-isms.
It's a new bumper sticker for the Shuttle Tydirium.
Yep.
Oh yeah, we're painting it on.
Oh yeah, my blaster has 6 settings. All of them kill.
Yep.
Hey, we'll put it right next to the number of Ewoks, Ewok markings,
The Ewok kill markers, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So one thing also I want to go in about the expansion is there's been a bit of hate about Why is this not the T65 fix? Why is that not in here? And I will say that historically, fixes for various things have come through with either things like a Rebels, Aces, Imperial Vets, or an Epic ship have been the mode of transportation for various fixes, like the X1 title fix, the Chard and Refit, things of that nature. And those ships have come outside of a wave schedule. There are waves that come through, and then there's these special expansion packs, the Aces, the Veterans, the big ships, the new Millennium Falcon and T-70 paint job. Those are beyond waves, and those usually have fixes for things. So for those of you that are expecting to have the T65 fix, how can people sleep at night for not having released the T65 fix when the game is mentioned is called X-Wing and they have the X-Wing as an utterly, unserviced ship, blah, blah, blah. Because this wave, the waves are not meant for that. So it's not going to happen. And then, why isn't there the Scum Epic ship? Why is this released when I have the Scum Epic? Because the Epic ships don't come in the waves. They're like independent of waves. And yes, they'll work on it. And it took the Raider like 2 years, it seems.
They're probably
to kind of
designing a Scum ship. That's probably why it's taking so long. I would expect they're designing a fresh Epic Scum ship at this point.
Or getting something from the extended universe that has to get cleared through LucasArts to actually be considered viable. Because the Raider was a completely made-up new ship because they didn't have Imperial ships that were anti-snub-nosed fighters. And they needed to actually create one.
Right, or anything small enough to fit on a table.
Right.
Right. So actually, because the Raider is pretty good at actually killing small ships. And, they had to actually work with LucasArts to make it happen and vet through their extensive process. And so I'm sure they're kind of doing the same thing with the Scum one. So Scum has only been out for a year. And it took 2 years to get the Imperial Raider. So the Epic ships are not in waves. Please calm down. It will come out. I promise. And lastly, last thing. Lately, since Scum came out, each wave has had one Imperial ship and one Rebel ship, and then 2 Scum ships, so Scum can catch up. The gunboat, the assault gunboat. I know you've got some diehard people out there, but all right. Since episode 7, there was actually a ship in episode 7. The one that Finn and Poe Dameron stole was a TIE Special Forces First Order TIE Fighter. Right. And it was in the movie. It was in the last Star Wars movie, okay? It's like there's a couple other ships. Will FFG release a ship with sure pressure from LucasArts and Disney, release a ship that either A, came out in the last movie that just was not even, maybe it's 6 months ago, or in a video game 20 years ago that not as many people have actually heard of before.
Right.
They get one ship. They're pressured to do these things. So cut them some slack. They can't release it now. I'm sure they're going to get to it. Just don't complain that it's not out in this wave, because it was in the freaking last movie. Of course they're going to put up this one. That's going to be the one Imperial ship, Right. So, all right. I guess with that we can kind of
now
work.
Now you've done berating our listeners.
Yeah, I sat him down and lectured at him. God.
Well, I guess I spent all day reading these. Why isn't this happening? Why is FFG doing this? They're a terrible game design company. I'm like, oh, please, really?
Jesus.
I
don't even read these anymore, man.
I did. I spent a long time doing it, so I'm just kind of like, please, just have some decency. But anyways, we can probably go over the first ship now, and it is the ARC 170 ship. Now, for those that don't know, it is a Clone Wars era ship.
Gasp!
And it has a Alliance overhaul and has only named pilots with no generics. And all the named pilots are people that are from the Galactic Civil War era. So it appears to be a mothballed ship that came from the Clone Wars, much like, I don't know, the Y-Wing or the Z-95, and is being used by the rebels who are grabbing any dang thing they can to kind of fight the Empire. But it's not bringing Clone Wars ships in as Clone Wars ships.
Right. Just in case you're getting ready to foam at the mouth at the existence of prequel stuff in the X-Wing game.
Right.
You know.
Right. Not that ever happened.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
why would anybody ever get mad about that sort of thing?
Yeah. I mean, personally, I love the prequels. I love Episode 1, 2, and 3. Episode 1, Jedi Party. Episode 2, The Front Zone. And Episode 3, Revenge of Middle Management. I think they're all great films. You should, if you don't know what I'm talking about, look up the Oral Knots on YouTube. I'm going to try and make a note to put this in the show notes, but look up the Oral Knots on YouTube.
It is hysterical.
Yeah.
On their advice, I have watched it, and it's pretty dang funny.
You'll learn to love the prequels. I guarantee it.
Yep. But looking at these ships and looking at the pilots, I will say that the pilots come from various books and comic books that are new canon material. And I have to say, I think there's probably going to be a situation in the comics or novels where they use an ARC 170 or several in missions to kind of do something, and that it's just not there yet. So I'm sure, or maybe in Rebels TV show, but I'm sure they're going to actually bring in the ARC 170 and use it in the mission to make it canon. You know, it's just, I know there's actually, because one pilot is Nora Wexley, and she was actually in Return of the Jedi. She was the Y-Wing pilot who went in with the other two X-Wings and with Lando Calrissian and a Falcon to blow up Death Star 2. And then they split off so that Wedge and you know, Lando gets all the credit while the other guys just kind of peel off the TIE fighters that are chasing them. And she's the Y-Wing pilot, and she also is in the Aftermath book, which a lot of people say is utter complete trash. And I'll say, having listened to the audiobook of it, it is not complete utter trash. I'm not saying it's great, but it's not complete utter trash.
It had a lot of hype to live up to.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's I listened to the audiobook. My 10-year-old liked it. We listened to it. It wasn't fantastic, you know, but it's part of a trilogy. They're going with these various characters. And her son, she goes to reunite with her son, who ends up being in episode 7. I think I might have mentioned this before. And so she's the mother of a famous character in episode 7 who's in the movie and etc. That's one of the characters. And the other one is Shara Bay, who was in 2 of the new comic series, was in the Princess Leia series, you know, as just a pilot who kind of helps, you know, fly her around and does adventures. And then she's also in the Shattered Empires miniseries of the comics, where she was in Green Squadron at the Battle of Endor, and Psycho Tycho dies, and then her husband is a Special Forces grunt, and they talk about, you know, what happens with life after now the war is probably going to end, even though it doesn't really end. It kind of goes in adventure with Luke Skywalker. But she's involved, and she's one of the pilots of the ARC 170 as well. So people online were kind of saying this was the mother's like expansion pack. In fact, they called it the Mother's I'd Like to Fly, or MILF. So,
oh boy,
I'd like to fly some of these mother pilots on the table too. So it seems pretty cool. These MILFs, it'd be really nice. but if,
I'm shaking my head. That's why I'm not responding.
If we want to go into the actual technical specs of the ARC 170, I want to pull up my chief engineer to kind of go over some of the actual technical details.
Yeah, sure. I'd love to, Jim. first off, I'd really like to say that the ARC 170 is a really nice looking ship, and back in the Clone War days, I mean, we used to see these piloted all the time, and they were a sturdy ship. It was a reliable ship, and as anyone who actually looks at the ship, you actually notice similarities between this and the original X-Wing, because this was indeed the precursor to it. But it was a heavier ship than the X-Wing. So aside from the looks, that's kind of where it ends. And for example, it has 2 attacks. All right, so it's got 2 attacks. It's got 1 evasion. It's got 6 hull. 6. It's a nice heavy hull. And then it's got 3 shields. So the big thing to kind of remember about this ship is that it's not very maneuverable at all, but it can take some punishment. And going to the maneuvering part, it also, you can see it with the maneuvering dial. Supposedly it has really good 1 and 2 maneuvers, like they're green maneuvers, but then most of the other maneuvers are kind of in the red zone. So really when it's trying to make those big banking turns or trying to go 3 or 4 speed, it struggles. The engines struggle. But another interesting thing about this ARC 170 is that it is a 2-person ship, and there's a gunner for this ship. And so what you'll see is on this ARC 170, it has an auxiliary firing arc in the back. So it's got that front firing arc and the back firing arc. And that we've seen this before. Boba Fett's Slave One is a perfect example of this. But the interesting thing about this ARC 170 is that there is a 0-point title upgrade card for the 170, which is called the Alliance Overhaul. And what this allows you to do is
background.
Yeah, go ahead.
It is what the Rebel Alliance of the Galactic Civil War overhauling an old Clone Wars ship. Is that what I understand I'm hearing?
You know what, Jim? That is correct. That is exactly what you're understanding.
It's almost like they're trying to make it very clear to us that this is a ship in the Galactic Civil War. Do you guys
mean with all
the
Rebel icons painted all over the ship?
The big Rebel Firebird, the tail gunner card with a clearly Rebel dude on it.
I might have seen that.
Yeah.
Yep. All correct. These are all correct observations. So anyway, this 0-point upgrade called Alliance Overhaul. What it allows you to do is that when you're firing with your front arc, you actually get to roll an additional attack die. So already you're bumping up that 2 attacks to 3 attacks, which is really nice. I mean, that's basically the X-Wing attacks, except now he's much heavier with less evasion. And then the trade-off is when you're firing with your auxiliary, your rear guns, instead of getting an extra die, so instead of 3, you only get the 2, but you can change 1 focus result to a crit result, which I think is actually pretty neat. It gives you a little, it still gives you something to shoot with, obviously, in your rear arc. So if someone choreograms you and you weren't expecting it, you could still shoot back there, and you even get a slightly increased chance to get a crit, which is nice.
And so maybe if you're bump or you're stressed or you don't have the action to kind of do to modify your attack die, here you can turn it into a crit.
Right. Exactly. So I think from a technical standpoint, the ship looks really cool, and I can't wait to see it fielded. It looks good.
What type of upgrade cards does it usually have?
Let's take a look here. So basically, what I'm seeing is that we do have an elite pilot talent. We've got a
or at least for that we can see for Shara Bay, but we don't know about the others.
Correct.
They're all unique, so they might, but we just don't know.
Exactly, and that's right now. Right now, it's all speculation. So the highest level pilot we can see does have the EPT. It does have the elite pilot talent. It looks to me like that's a torpedo slot.
Yep.
And then a crew slot, and then what's that last one? Is that
slot.
That's an astromech? Okay,
yeah.
So an astromech. So it's really cool that you also, and thanks for reminding me, it's really cool that you have that ability to add a crew. I really do love ships that can add a crew. It just, to me, it makes the ship so much more dangerous or useful. And I think this is going to be a really interesting ship to play.
And I have to say, it's the first ship that has both the crew card and the astromech card.
Yeah, good point. That's almost, if you think about it, that's almost like 2 crew. Because an astromech is potent as it is. It can be.
Right. Well, U-boats has the crew card and the unhinged astromech, which is that's what breaks it, is what people say. And so in this regard, I hadn't even scratched the surface with the various crew / astromech combos that you could do, or even future ones. But there's already so much going on with this ship that I haven't even thought about the other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's certainly some interesting combos that you could do. Like you could try to go for a hard to kill build with C-3PO. Works well with this ship because it's 1 agility. If that doesn't leave a bad taste in your mouth. And you could also put R2-D2 as the astromech to have regenerative ability on that as well. So it's very similar to the way that Miranda Doney was being flown, 5 months ago or so.
Well,
where she had the regenerative ability and C-3PO available.
One thing I even look at with that 6-hull is what about R5-D8, which is Porkin's astromech, which is what I call repair bot, where you roll the green die in any focus or evade, he removes a damage card. So basically 5/8 of the time that you spend in action, you can actually remove a damage card from the ship.
Yeah, I just worry about that spending that action doesn't net you more than you would, just taking a focus.
If you're able to peel away for a turn or two, because this thing does seem to be a bit on the clunky side. Maybe if you've got, I don't know, C-3PO or some other combo.
Yeah, it's possible that these ships might be able to fly in a sort of boom and zoom style attack where they fly directly at an enemy and then continue on that direction, counting on their auxiliary arcs
to
cover them.
And you know what?
They could maybe disengage and regenerate.
Yeah, and especially if they're regenerating and they don't get that focus, if that rear arc, you're actually still getting to change a focus to a crit. So
exactly.
It's almost like an automatic focus for one of your shots if you hit.
Yes. If you want to play by the averages, one's going to be a hit, one's going to be either a blank or an eyeball. So, averages, you're kind of covered. Cool.
Do we want to talk about any more about the stats of the ship?
Yeah, go for it. Is there anything else that you wanted to add? I just kind of gave a brief overview there.
Yeah, just say target lock and focus actions, I guess.
Yes, yeah.
Just very, very plain action bar. No repositioning.
Right, very plain. No boost, no barrel roll, nothing fancy. Just a target lock and a focus. Very good.
We should note that in the upgrade cards, there seems to be a very clear card that says that will give you a barrel roll as a modification. Add barrel roll to your action bar.
Right.
It seems.
I was going to talk about it as various other upgrades that come out, but we can bring it up. So modification, we don't know how many points. It's small ship only, vectoring thrusts. Your ship gains the barrel roll action.
That's what it appears to say. Yeah. Can't be certain, but I'd be shocked if it was anything else.
I'm actually more surprised that they just came out with this. I mean,
it seems overdue.
I've been wanting this basically since I got into the game so I could give it to one of my Hawks, or both of my Hawks. But knowing how this is, it's probably going to cost like 3 points, and it's going to make me mad that it's going to cost a fortune and throw off all of my counting on my ships. But I'm glad they finally put it in the game, assuming there's not something hiding underneath there that's going to make it unusable. But it looks like a very simple, we need to give this to all the X-Wings too. Ding, there's there's one of the upgrades that it's needed, sort of thing.
So one of the big complaints against the T-65 X-Wing that I see online is that, it's got no repositioning value. It's jousting in an Arc Dodgers world and it can't do anything and it sucks. It's horrible, never play it, blah, 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 blah. And what this can do is actually allow an X-Wing or other ships to actually have a repositioning value. The one thing for an X-Wing is that you would then not be able to do integrated astromech or guidance chip with that particular thing.
Right. And I'll also note that we've had engine upgrade for a long time now also, and that hasn't, fixed the X-Wing either.
True, but it is 4 points, and the engine upgrade can also work on large ships, and it's also fantastic for large ships.
Right, but that doesn't stop anyone from putting on an X-Wing, though.
True, and it's been attempted, but it's not quite as useful. I am thinking it's going to be less than 4 points, probably maybe about 2 points. But I also think that it's actually going to be an excellent card for the Karax fighter. Because the Karax... Because I think there's still the title slot for the X-Wing that's going to come out, and I'm convinced it's going to be the T-67 title that's like halfway between T-65, T-70 is going to give it a boost. And that's what it's going to do.
Right.
But the Karax fighter, everyone's like, oh, same problem with the T-65. It's the scum T-65, and it's got no repositioning and blah, blah, blah. And so this way you can actually add it, and it will give barrel roll. And one of the cool things about the Karax is it has a white one sharp turn. And I remember in the first few waves of the game, people said that the one sharp turn is the most powerful maneuver in the game. That it's amazing. You can do that and barrel roll. Like, if you do a one sharp turn and then barrel roll backwards, you're almost like just basically pivoting where you are.
Right, and that could be nice for a Karax to have this, yeah.
Right, and for Karax to have any type of repositioning value at all, as long as it's priced decently, not 3 or 4 points, it could actually be, something pretty important for a lot of other ships, whether it's a T-65 possibly, or the Karax or a few other ships, even Y-wings perhaps. Like there's a number of things, a number of ships that it's actually a pretty important thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Do we want to go into the strategy for this ship, or the
why don't we move over to Phil, co-pilot, give us some tactics. Let's hear what you got to say.
So take this with a grain of salt, but I think that overall this wave is trying to boost up jousters, and I think it's going to become clear as we go through the various expansions that are being previewed here. But in this case, I think that this ship it's intended to work kind of as a jouster. I envision it sort of taking a direct line towards the enemy. It has, very, very robust hull. It can take a lot of hits on the way in. And then I think it can count on the rear arc to keep firing at enemies after it's passed through a formation.
I also hear New York City trying to join in.
Yeah, yeah, that happens. But yeah, especially with the Alliance overhaul, which is obviously an auto include card for every arc going forward until there's even another title option.
Right.
Maybe with Tail Gunner, which looks to be 2 points, and if it doesn't improve your rear attack, I don't know what they're thinking. It could be a very, very viable tactic to try and dive in straight at your enemy and pass by, and then eventually circle back.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I see also about this wave is it's almost like an anti-arc dodger wave.
Yeah, I think that's also true.
Because if you look at the various listings for what lists, yes, you hear about the jump masters and the U-boats, but you see a lot more Imperial Aces or Palp Aces or some various 3 or 4 ship lists with Imperials that have like Vader, the Inquisitor, Darth Vader, Carnajax, Wampa, these guys, and they all arc dodging SOBs who, want to come in from the angles and sides and mess with you. And a lot of these ships just basically have tools to totally mess with those guys.
Right. And I'm looking at the torpedo card here, which we don't have full text for, but what we can see is very intriguing in terms of it being sort of a weird torpedo. It looks like the where you would normally have the attack header for the torpedo, it has action instead. So
Correct. Yeah.
It looks like you fire this torpedo during the action phase, during your activation, which is completely unheard of right now.
Yep.
Right.
And there's also something to do with the primary firing arc and range 1. So my guess right now, which is, take it for what it's worth, is that this is a torpedo that you can fire with an action at targets at range 1 of you, even outside your primary firing arc, which means that it would be absolutely lethal against many arc dodging type ships out there, because you could move into range 1 of them on your movement before they even had any chance to react and fire this torpedo at them before they've taken their actions, tokened up, etc. It could be completely lethal to many of those.
And it could be, because apparently in an interview, one of the FFG designers said that in the next wave is going to be the obvious fix to kill U-boats. And perhaps this is one of those things as well. But we really don't know what it is. Yep. And if it's something that, you move and then fire before the guy even gets to move, that's kind of crazy. So
yeah. I mean, who knows what it actually is, but I'm thinking it's something along those lines.
With a tail gunner crew, and we see it's 2 points, and it does something with the auxiliary firing arc. But, I mean, what about fire sprays? Because I think about fire sprays with this and what it can do. We don't really know what tail gunner does, but this could be a bump for Imperial or Scum fire sprays. And even Kath Scarlet gets the bonus for firing out of her booty rear. And so this could be even something that boosts Kath Scarlet or perhaps boosts Boba Fett or, even Imperial versions of these crew. It could, we don't know exactly what it does, but it's kind of pretty interesting what you could do. Or auxiliary firing arc could even be Houndstooth. The auxiliary firing arc is that 180 firing arc.
That's true. I wonder if this works for that. Yeah.
But do we want to go into even the 2 named pilots that we can actually read what the heck happens with them?
Yeah, let's read off their abilities real fast. So Nora Wexley looks like her ability is when attacking or defending, you may spend a target lock you have on the attacking ship to add 1 eyeball result to your roll.
Okay, we probably should have done the other one first, I have to admit, but
well, anyway,
what it does is
adds eyeballs.
It adds an eyeball to your result. So much like Advanced Targeting Computer adds a crit to your total, this adds an eyeball to your total.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously, if you have a focus token for this is really cool because it's essentially adding another evade.
And we all know about synergy in this game, and it's there. And I think she's got an EPT. We can do push the limit. But even without that, there's other things you can do, including using Shara Bay we haven't got to yet. But there's also within the Rebel Alliance, there's Garvin Dreys, there's Kyla Katarn and the Hawk. There's I had a whole listed out. There's 101 different Rebel uses to basically share actions. Kraken.
Yeah. The K-Wing.
Right. So there's a lot of different things you can do to actually share your actions. And so I saw some people complaining online about, she's got to spend her action to do the target lock, and how she can even get the focus. Oh, come on. Where's your imagination? The Rebels are like the kings of synergy. You can't come up with any combo at all that can deal with this. So basically, if you have Nora Wexley and you have the title card, the Alliance Overhaul. So your native 2 attack die. You're firing at someone. You've got Alliance Overhaul. You add that. It's 3 attack die. Suddenly, you spend a target lock, whether you get the target lock from someone else or whatever. You can add a focus result to your total, and then you spend your focus. And so one, it affects all your other 3 dice rolls, but it adds an extra hit to that. So basically, you've got 3 dice plus an automatic hit included in your dice roll. I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty rough.
that's a pretty good ability right there. So, you're dishing out some damage with Nora Wexley. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Let's go into Shara Bay. So Shara Bay's ability, which works nicely with Nora Wexley, is when another friendly ship at range 1 to 2 is attacking, it may treat your blue target lock tokens as its own. And it's got some awesome card art, by the way.
And you also have a crew slot, so you can put in, say, Weapons Engineer, which lets you take 2 target locks at people.
Yep. Weapons Engineer also works well with R7 droid to keep your ship well protected.
And who's the bot from Wave 1 that lets you, if you spend a target lock, there's a chance you might not actually use it?
R5K6. When you have to roll an evade dice, and you get the target lock back on an evade result, which is 3 out of 8. Not great, but
yeah,
I did used to like him.
He's kind of rough. With this person, it might actually be worth it,
Maybe. I think I'd rather like Weapons Engineer.
You can do both, actually, and then when you get it back, you could get 2 more. So,
that's true.
It's actually, it's kind of interesting, the different things you can do with this, and all sorts of different combos. So if you've got Z95 headhunters with, missiles and such, there's a lot of things you can do. A lot of people say Tracer, the Tracer missile is how you should do things, but I have to admit that Tracer missile is a one-shot thing, and it's one person has to fire it, not do anything that round, to give other people target lock. And people always say, "Oh, take a Z95 swarm with blunt, and he, gets it. The other 4 guys can hit him." But are you really going to use all other 4 missiles, on that one target? Yeah. Maybe it's the Falcon or something, but. I think that Shara Bay is probably a better pilot to actually kind of dish out those target lock options, particularly for, say, Nora Wexley.
Yeah, and I think that since the ARC-70s like to take their slow moves, they have all those green slow moves, it's likely that they're going to be, in the thick of a fight for multiple turns, and that's when target locks can become very nice because it's easy to pick up a target lock and then use it later. You're not going to be worried about not being able to pick up a target lock after you move, et cetera, et cetera. If everyone's always close to each other, then they can really start coming in handy. At least that's how I see them. But
right.
And a focus token isn't worth so much on a ship with 1 agility. I like target locks instead in that case, because it's unlikely that you'll roll a eyeball result on your 1 green die. But your target lock sticks around even if you don't use it.
Right. There's a ton of pilots like Dutch mixed with Shara, mixed with Nora. There's all sorts of crazy combos that you could do. So J-Bot, what are your thoughts on the ARC 170?
I'm kind of on the same page as Jake is. I really like the ship. Assuming that the paint job sticks, and I know I've made some complaints about paint jobs, but they actually make it look like it's a repurposed ship. It kind of sort of does look like it was dragged out of the mud and put on the tables, sort of like my old ships.
Jake, can you run a quick diagnostic on J-Bot? He sounds cheerful. He sounds upbeat. Something went wrong.
Trust
that's
me,
my J-Bot 2.0 programming upgrade, actually.
It's a calmer J-Bot. I like the ship. I think the thing that makes me the maddest about the ship, in general, the thing that kind of irks me is the fact that people are complaining that it's a Clone Wars era ship. I mean, this is Star Wars, people. You kind of got to take all of it or take nothing, is my opinion on the whole IP, especially if you're going to say canon. If you're ever going to throw canon as a word in your argument to me, I'm sorry, you get episodes 1, 2, and 3. You get that. It's part of the combo meal. So if this ship is in that, I don't mind it. I actually love a lot of those first ships. You know, the little droid ships, the little brown droid ships. I think those are great. I mean, I want to see a table filled with those things. They should be dirt cheap. They should get blasted out of the sky. I mean, give them 2 hull, make them cost like 6 or 7 points, and let people just blow through them and see if you can actually get through the weight of just, you know, dozens and dozens of these things on the table. And the other little, you know, fighters and things that are in those movies, I think would be great. And yet people just have complete disdain for it, and I think that's ridiculous. I mean, you're limiting yourself, and you're basically forcing LucasArts and these people to create ships in episode 7 and 8 and any of these intermediary ones, just so you don't have to worry about them touching those, you know, those lepers of episodes 1, 2, and 3. So, you know, let this one go. I don't even think they needed to do all the backflips of giving it this, you know, long-winded backstory. Oh, we'll eventually flesh that out in a comic book or a cartoon. Like, how is that any different than, you know, canon that already exists? It's like, you know, I could
like
go
a Y-wing or a Z95,
right? It's like, you know, I'm fairly certain, this is just me. Maybe I saw the wrong movie, but they mentioned the Death Star in the prequel movies too. So why isn't everybody mad about the Death Star being in the new ones? I mean, come on, like, really, like. It had to start somewhere, and I don't know as much about the history of these things, but if Jake says this is a precursor to the X-Wing, then to me it falls in the same purview as X-Wing, quote unquote. So it needs to be. I'm not upset at all. I'm more upset at the people who are upset, if that makes sense.
Well, I think they kind of
perfect.
Yeah, they took the Z95 mixed with this thing and kind of came up with the X-Wing. But yeah, I totally agree. It's like it doesn't have to necessarily be a horrible thing. I think the Clone Wars cartoon for me actually helped redeem episodes 1, 2, and 3. I was late to watching the shows, and just last summer I watched them all with my son. We kind of binge watched all summer, and it actually was really good. I was impressed, and I didn't think it would be as exciting as it was. And I really think the Clone Wars cartoon does a lot to redeem, you know, episodes 1, 2, and 3 to make them bearable.
Yeah, I don't want to get into a long discussion of it, but to me, a lot of the stuff that people throw out, it's a baby in bathwater situation. Like, yes, there's a lot of issues with storytelling and stuff, and definitely casting, et cetera. So that's a whole nother podcast. But Don't throw out like really cool stuff from the first, you know, episodes 1, 2, and 3 just because you have this crazy hate for some of the choices that were made. So that's where I'm at, is stop being mad at these people, you know, and just enjoy it.
There you go.
Right.
And I agree with what you said also too. You know, Clone Wars, the animated series, I thought really redeemed a whole lot of qualities there. And one of my favorite characters out of Star Wars universe was born in the episode 3, which was General Grievous, but I loved him even before that in the Japanese animation, the anime kind of introducing it in between episodes 2 and 3. I don't know if anyone ever saw that, but
he's a lot.
I mean,
he's a lot more badass in those.
Oh God, it
wasn't anime. It was the guy from Dexter's Laboratory. He was the artist who did it. So yeah,
true.
But yes, I totally agree with that.
So in any case, moving on.
But it's funny, I think, that people have that complaint when we talk about the next ship, the TIE Special Forces First Order, or the First Order TIE Fighter Special Forces, that people are complaining about this because it was actually in Episode 7. I mean, this was the ship that, like, Poe Dameron and Finn jumped into, the two-person one. And when they left, it was like one of the first TIE fighters introduced in the movie, the new movie. And, you know, people are complaining, well, why do they have this? Why do we do another TIE variant? Oh, they're just trying to make me buy another TIE variant. Oh, this looks the same as two, you know. It's so funny that it was actually a ship that's canon, you know, that was breaking in the movie, and people are complaining about getting it. So it's just kind of funny. But if you could tell me, Mr. Engineer, about the First Order TIE Special Forces, I'd like to know.
Yeah, you got it. Absolutely. So, as you already aptly put it, this TIE fighter was actually made famous by our newest movie, where Finn and Poe actually stole it and tried to escape the Star Destroyer. This TIE fighter is a little bit bulkier than the original one because it actually has a second seat for a gunner. And this is kind of like Phil was saying, we're starting to see a theme here. This TIE fighter also has an auxiliary firing arc in the back. But before I get to that, let's go into the stats. This TIE fighter has 2 attacks and 2 evade dice instead of 3. But then what it has is 3 hull points and then 3 shield points. So this is a little bit of a more durable TIE fighter there, which is actually pretty cool. So if you ever had a TIE fighter but we're looking for a little bit more of a heft to it, this is your TIE. It has a front firing arc and an auxiliary firing arc, as I mentioned before, so you can definitely see the theme there. It has a focus. It has a target lock, which is great for TIEs, and then it also has the standard barrel roll, which is really nice. Now, very much like the ARC 170 that we just talked about, there is a 0-point upgrade, title upgrade for this card, and it kind of allows you to utilize that rear firing arc and the front firing arc too. So with this one, it's called the Special Ops Training. When attacking with a primary weapon from your primary firing arc, you may roll 1 additional attack die. So right off the bat, you can actually go from 2 to 3, which is fantastic, right? I mean, for a TIE fighter to actually roll 3 dice, it's almost like a TIE interceptor. However, if you do not do that, you can perform an additional attack from your auxiliary firing arc. So instead of rolling an additional attack up front, you can actually do an attack in the front and the back on the same turn, which I think is really just kind of crazy. And even though it doesn't explicitly say it, it obviously must mean that you can declare 2 targets of the attack, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to, fire at a ship that's in front of you, the same ship behind you. So I find that very interesting, and just spreading out damage and giving you more options. So that's what we're looking at so far. Now, as far as
I do,
go ahead.
I do like the 2 attacks. That is pretty cool to get the 2 attacks.
Yeah, I think that's really unique. It's something that we haven't seen before, I think, and I'm excited about it. As far as the little upgrades, it looks like for our elite, the highest pilot that we have there, which it looks like is called Quick Draw, we do have an EPT, an elite pilot talent available. It looks like, and I'm not sure, is that the sensor array or is that a blaster?
Yeah, he's got a systems slot and a tech slot.
Got it. So it's a system slot and a tech. That's great.
Although,
and then
that could be a missile. Yeah, I think that's a missile in between.
It is a missile. Yeah.
Okay, good. So that's a missile then. Okay. So you can see that it also has a plethora of upgrades, which for a TIE is almost unheard of. So this is really, your special forces. You just breathe special forces. So heavier TIE, you put your elite pilots in it and you go wild. And
we see that there are a new system and new tech, that come with it. And what is this? The collision detector the system upgrade, basically says something about,
barrel rolling and
overlapping something, and that could be potentially for lots of different ships with system. I mean, it could do more than this, but it still could be awesome for this particular ship.
And then the what does the other one look like too? The tech upgrade.
Sensor cluster.
Maybe.
When defending, spend something to change something. So,
Yeah, who knows? But special ops training is really this is interesting. This is actually the second auto include title in this wave, right?
Yeah.
It's that's pretty interesting to me.
But I like it. I like the fact that it's 2 agility, but it can boost either its main attack value or get 2 attacks like front and rear, and it's got missiles, so it's kind of like a TIE Advanced Prototype V1 or an X1. There's lots of different variations of a TIE fighter that kind of are thrown in these days. And it's got new tech and possible old tech. I mean, there's comm relay, all sorts of things you can do. And it's just kind of cool. It's just like another little variant.
Although we should note with comm relay that it doesn't come with a native evade action. So it's not going to be able to stack. Yeah, the action bar is focus, target lock, barrel roll. No evade there.
I did not notice that in my my compulsive reading stuff online.
Yeah.
You're probably drooling too much over this thing, you and your ties.
And arguing with people about why it should or should not be there. But so Philip, the name guy, the one that we can read, are you able to use your magnifying glass to kind of find out more about this?
I use my enhance tool. Hang on. Computer, enhance. Enhance sector 23A by cross section 43.
Blade Runner reference. I love it.
So it looks like it says once per round, when you lose a shield token, you may perform a primary weapon attack. What? So
what?
This is crazy because you can lose a shield token just by running over an asteroid, guys. So you could maybe, if you're like crazy, you could purposely run this guy over an asteroid, park him, ending the maneuver right in front of somebody that you want to shoot at. Maybe you could have advanced sensors on him. He has a system slot, so you could take your focus action first, run over an asteroid, take the damage, lose a shield, and immediately make a primary weapon attack on your arc dodger of choice that you want to kill.
Or
this is bananas.
Yeah, and that begs the question: if you link this with that special ops training, does that mean I can fire both ways? Like, because it just says primary, like when you're
so
attacking
you can make like a 4 dice attack on somebody.
or 3 one way and then the other. Like you get your 2 attacks.
It does say primary weapon. It does say primary weapon.
Other one.
Yeah, I guess that counts for this.
But the special ops,
Yeah,
special ops says when attacking with primary. So you can, the way I'm reading it, and I'm not an expert, it sounds like, oops, I ran over this thing, and now I can fire forward for 2 dice and backwards for, if I have all that stuff to link together and stuff to shoot at, or like you said, 4 dice into someone's face that's normally arc dodging before they can get tokens and things.
Modified too.
In the movement phase. Before they're even, let's say it's an ace, let's say it's Suntir Fel, and maybe he's tokenless at this point. You could actually move across a Connor net or a mine or an asteroid and get to shoot at Suntir Fel before he even gets to shoot.
Right, that's exactly
or get his,
what makes that this setup so powerful. Although this is kind of a corner case. It's probably not going to happen that often.
True.
When it does, it's just going to be murder.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is the highest level, or highest pilot skill guy.
Right. That's the other thing. It's PS9, so he's going to be moving after almost everybody. So
True.
It's only going to work on the highest level arc dodgers, unless you put maybe this is a pilot that you want to put adaptability and bring him down pilot skill.
Yeah.
I think in general the tactics for this ship is to get just as much use out of that special ops training card as possible. And I think you really want to just be in the middle of just a big furball with these guys, with a bunch of these guys. You have great coverage with your auxiliary arcs just in every direction. You can make a really powerful forward-facing attack, or make 2 attacks, one out of your front, one out of your rear. If those are both at range 1, you could be, you're throwing 6 total dice every round. That's just awesome. It's really
3 shield, 3 evade is pretty nice,
Right, you're durable enough to be in the middle of a scrum like that. Maybe you could have accuracy corrector on this thing.
Yeah.
And when you roll those both those attacks, you could just automatically set them to 2 hits. Out of your front and out of your rear.
Or fire control system, or you get a free target lock on someone, and then you do the boost the primary, then do the focus.
I don't know if fire control is what I would take for this, because you might be firing at one target with your front arc and then another target with your rear arc, and you may not get as much use out of those target locks that you generate. Although, it's certainly possible that you get some use out of it.
Though I will say that most lists these days tend to have fewer ships as opposed to more, and you actually would rather bump your primary. And if you have fire control system for that, it all depends. Everything's situational. Everything's situational in this game, and this is one of those.
And I think you would definitely want a pilot talent that is sort of like a passive ability that you don't have to activate and doesn't work only once around. Something that works on both of your attacks. Maybe Predator would be really good for this. So you could modify both the front and rear attack.
Right, and even going with something like Sensor Jammer on the ship, which would make people use their focus tokens to attack you, it could really work with a front and rear arc. Even like a low point generic could go with Sensor Jammer, and the special ops training to kind of really, do some damage.
Yeah, this is a really interesting ship. I'm looking forward to getting this on the table. And I wonder what the other palatability is going to be. Yeah.
So it is.
I'm certainly interested in it. I don't fly Imperials, but it's certainly interesting.
Do you have any comments in particular to make about this ship, J-Bot?
Well, what I really don't like is the fact that they're making all these stupid things so confusing. I mean, it's a tie. It looks exactly like all the rest of them. So it's got a racing stripe on it, for crying out loud. Now it's special. And it's got an auxiliary arc that's going to confuse the hell out of me because I'm used to all the TIE fighters, pointing in one direction, and I can, figure out what I'm supposed to do. But now you've got this guy who's.
But J-Bot, all this is based in canon. Come on now.
I don't remember him shooting out of the back of that ship.
You don't?
They did in the movie.
They totally did.
I don't remember. Honestly, that was at the beginning sometime. I mean, what the
God, J-Bot, pay attention.
And if you look at
all this stuff, it was a TIE fighter. I never.
Aren't you going through these scenes frame by frame to look for this stuff? Come on.
No,
I'm not even. Game.
I'm not even zooming in on these cards. I'm just taking your word for it. Y'all can be lying. All this stuff. I'm just looking at the ships and deciding whether or not they're pretty enough to add to my collection. I don't really care. Powerful ship. I mean, not like it's going to help me any. Not unless any of these have on there something like you can turn every single thing you roll to whatever face you want on the die. Like, that's about the only chance I get.
Yeah. Well, you will see that where it connects to the TIE fighter panel, it's got like this thick disc. Cog, thank you. And it's also got a little antenna, and it's also got the stripe. So it is different overall, and a little firing arc. So hopefully there'll be less confusion about, what ship it is, and you forgot, etc., when I crush you.
It looks exactly the same as the other one. Give it make the foils paint a different color or something, give it so it's obvious at, table height. I mean, somebody's going to repaint this stupid thing so you can't even tell. I mean, it's going to look exactly like the rest of it.
It's going to look like the General Lee or something.
It might be a little stretch.
All right. But the next ship is called officially the Protectorate Starfighter Expansion Pack. But it's also been called by most people as the Fang Fighter. And it deals with... this came from pretty much an episode of Star Wars Rebels Season 2, where this sect of Mandalorians who were kind of more militant, but they didn't join Death Watch. So basically they were militant, but they weren't like evil. Kind of were these guys, and they kind of were these kind of gray protectorate types. And they actually got hired by the Empire because they were involved in the Clone Wars, but they also kind of identify with the Rebels. So this is kind of this weird, in the fluff story. And one thing that's cool about that, if there's a particular episode, I think it's called even like the Concord Dawn Protector or something along those lines, that these ships, when they move, the cockpit stays the same, but the wings actually swivel. Like they can spin 360. And so when the ship moves, those wings will zoom, zoom, and those move around. which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Wasn't this the ship somebody was saying was their favorite one last time or recently or
on the Facebook group?
Somebody, it seems like I remember somebody talking about a ship that had the wings that spun around the cockpit as being their favorite ship, or one they wanted to see added to the game. I can't remember.
This ship was it is in the Custom Card League as a submission. You maybe remember it from
maybe it's possible. Yeah, a lot of this stuff is. I'm seeing a lot of ships lately after having looked through that Custom Card League.
Yeah, this ship was actually one of the top leading ships in the vote, which is ongoing as we record right now. But I decided today that I'm going to disqualify this one and the ARC 170 entries and the TIE SF entry because now we have official ships for those ships. So it sucks because I didn't anticipate this happening. Especially not with so many of the entries.
How close did the people get to what FFG went with?
Well, I think the Mandalorian fighter, as it was called in the card league, had 2 attack, but otherwise it was pretty similar. I think it had 3 evade, and I think it had 2 hull, 2 shield.
Well, let's pull up our chief engineer and have him go over the technical specs with us, just so we can.
Sure, absolutely. So, basically, this ship, as you mentioned, was from Star Wars Rebels. That's where I first saw it as well. Really cool ship. It much like the B-wing, which has its kind of wing shaft spin around the cockpit. This ship also has those 2 wings on either side spinning around it, firing these lasers forward, but in a 360-degree arc. So it's almost like this spinning laser of death, which always looks really cool. This ship has exactly. This ship has 3 attack to kind of give some visuals to that whole spinning laser of doom thing. 3 attacks. It has 3 evasion. It has 4 hull and no shields at all. So when you're looking at something like this, immediately when you see the 3 evade, you're thinking, okay, that's very similar to like a TIE or an interceptor. And then you see the 3 attacks. Okay, that does seem like an interceptor. But the difference, of course, here being that it has an extra hull point, which is really nice. Now, this ship, in the release info, they said how, these ships really like to get up close and personal, and they're extremely agile ships. And you can kind of see that with the ship abilities. It has a focus, it has a target lock, which, are staples, but then it also has a boost, and it has a barrel roll built in. So it's very maneuverable. It has arc positioning abilities if you want it to. And additionally, in one of the cards, in fact, I believe it's one of the pilot cards here. Yes, one of these cards called Fen Rao. It has an ability that says, when attacking or defending, if the enemy ship is at range 1, you may roll an additional attack die. Which, if you think about it, is pretty significant, because if I'm reading this correctly, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but that means that you'll roll 4, but then if you're at range 1, you're getting an additional attack die anyway for being at range 1. So then that would be 5 dice. Am I reading that correctly?
That's correct. Mauler missile.
Yeah.
So this is a really agile ship. It's really fast, and its entire play style really. And Phil, you'll be the determining factor on this for tactics, but it seems to me it really wants to be up close and personal at all times, because that's 5 dice. That's a lot of dice to roll.
Well, like one of the things they do, they talk about this as being the Uber jouster,
Right.
And what does everyone complain about the T-65, which always kills me, because it's just. They talk about the T-65, and basically it's repositioned.
Flow.
It needs to have boost. It needs to have barrel. It's a terrible ship. It doesn't have one of these things. And this ship has both of them.
Right.
And I think one of the things that someone complained online and said, well, it seems to want to be a jouster, but it's got all the skills of an arc dodger, and that's wrong.
Good,
right.
Good for that ship. I mean,
but someone else said it's actually got all the tools to joust an arc dodger.
I think that's basically the idea here.
Yeah, I agree. And just to finish up before you get into the deep tactics of it, the last thing I was going to mention is just that it also has, for the upgrades, 1 EPT, 1 Elite Pilot Talent, and it also has 1 torpedo as well.
Right.
So go for it. Go and delve
torpedo.
into it.
I will say there is no illicit, so these guys aren't really your drug-swizzling scum. They're more your villains.
Right, yeah. I think that's a definite flavor decision on FFG's part. These guys aren't really the types to be getting into the glitter stem,
right,
and illegal upgrades.
That's cool. That's cool.
So, looking at the cards here, we can also see. I've used my enhance tool to take a look at the title card here, Concord Dawn Protector, which is Protectorate Starfighter only. And it looks like it says, when defending, if you are inside the attacker's firing arc and at range 1, and the attacker is inside your firing arc, add 1 evade result. So it absolutely rewards you for being face-to-face with your attacker at range 1. Real close.
And this is like cheap blockers that you want to throw out there. This is your big guys. And, a lot of people compare the other guy, the Cad Solis, who's PS9, with Talonbane Cobra, and, he's a dud too. This guy's going to be dud. But, things like that title thrown in there, and all the various repositioning ability of the Fang Fighter I think this, this is better than the Karax Fighter and Cobra Talonbane.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really strong ship if it's not too heavily costed. I think is Fenrau 28 points or 26 points? 28.
I think 28.
It's a little.
It looks like 28.
Yeah, it's 28. Yeah.
That might be a little hefty, but it's hard.
Yeah, for him though.
To say.
For his ability, it's not just the range 1 additional attack. I mean, he's getting the
defense,
one and defending, and if you put that protector thing on him, that's essentially 4 defense dice and a free evade no matter what. So that's pretty ludicrous. But at the same time, he only has 4 hull. So it makes me wonder about basically just a single shot from a missile or just 2 people hitting him with missiles before he even gets close. So,
but look at Suntur Fel. How much is Suntur Fel? And he's got 3 hull.
I think he's 25, which is effectively
27 points.
Oh, does he start at 27?
27 points. He's got boost, barrel roll, evade, focus. He doesn't have target lock.
Right.
But
he really costs 30 points because you never take him without push the limit.
Right. And auto thrusters. But you can put
auto thrusters on this too.
And that's another thing that's cool about this ship. So that here you go with auto thrusters and with the title. And so you're covered at range 3 with the auto thrusters. You're covered at range 1 with the free evade for every attack. As long as you're not stuck at range 2,
Yeah, but that range 1 ability is when you're facing the enemy and he's facing you. It's very specific conditions for that to trigger. Could be difficult to get that every time.
Well, but with boost and barrel roll and perhaps potentially push the limit on the other guys, maybe not so bad. Maybe not so much. And it's kind of cool if you can get it and still go within range 1, then you can actually get the some action economy with the evade at least. I don't know. I think this is a really cool jouster, and some people are saying, jousting is not really used anymore in X-Wing, but we've got the Defender coming up, the TIE Defender with the 2 new titles, and a lot of people are playing Imperial Aces right now, and you can basically get a lot of ships that are jousters that potentially, will want to joust. So if you've got the Fang Fighters versus the TIE Defenders, you've got a joust fest or a joust off or a joust. I don't know. But I think it's it's pretty cool to have these ships, and I think they're kind of like Uber jousters. They're arc dodging. They can joust the arc dodgers.
Yeah, I think that's the idea here.
Yeah, they look like fun ships, and the only thing that really makes me mad about these is that I'm probably going to have to get one of these, if not two of them, because they look like the ships just look really cool, and it's got 6 cards in it, 6 pilot cards, which means it's got a massive range probably of points. That 28-point really high level guy, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that low level guy's less than 20 points without much of a stretch for that pilot skill 1 guy. So
True.
I think that you could get a lot of playability out of this, and that makes me mad because I'm going to end up having to buy 1, if not 2 of them, to really enjoy them, because I like the look of the ship, and that tends to be what costs me money.
Yeah, and it is interesting. There's 6 pilots, but only 2 cards that come with it, because it only gets an EPT.
Yep.
Not for all of them potentially, and a torpedo slot.
Yeah.
But that 1 EPT, it's either fearless or fearlessness. If I can kind of do my enhanced viewing, something about when you attack a ship inside your firing arc, and they're in your own firing arc, it looks like you add a hit.
I think so. Or maybe you can cancel it. Hit? Who knows?
Right, but we don't quite know what it is, and we don't know how much it costs. But if it's like add a hit, so here you are, like, you want to get in range 1 in someone's face and firing at them. You already get the bonus +1. You can maybe possibly add a free hit to them. You get a free evade for it.
Stick it on Fenn Rau.
Right, it's just kind of ridiculous what you can do with this thing. It's just, and also it looks to be fearlessness or fearless or fearlessness. It might be scum only. It kind of,
it's definitely scum only. Yeah, it's definitely scum only.
You can also use this on things like the Carax fighter. For the cheap EPT guy. It's a jouster. Maybe you can give it barrel roll with the other thruster thing. And here it goes. If it's in your firing arc, your target, you can add extra attack die or somehow improve your attack die or I don't know. It also seems like another fix for the Carax fighter, which I think got largely just ignored, when it came out. But I think a lot of people say, "Oh, this is the Fang fighter is finding the meat and potatoes ship that Scum's waiting for." But I think also in this wave are other things that make the Carax a great meat and potatoes ship as well. So that's just, an idea or an opinion, and we don't quite know what these are yet. But I think a lot of this stuff kind of even helps out some of these other ships that were kind of ignored. So I'm pretty happy about that.
Do you want to move to the next ship?
Yeah. We're running late here.
Yeah.
So the last one is, of course, a large base ship, because there's always one large base ship. Ever since Wave 2, there's been a large base ship with every release. And this one is another Scum, since Scum's catching up. It is the Shadowcaster, or technically the Lancer Pursuit Craft. It came from Star Wars Rebels, where Sabine, who comes from some rogue Mandalorian house, but even she's broken away from her family, met or had an old friend, Ketsu Onyo, and their goal was to join Black Sun organization. That was their, life goal.
Not the loftiest of goals.
Right. So they had high ambitions, But I will say that Ketsu Onyo, the voice actress who's for it, was in Firefly, the TV show, which is a cult classic. I haven't seen it, I recommend it. But it was the girlfriend of the pilot.
Oh, cool.
So like the co-pilot or the co-in charge, co-captain, I don't know.
Oh, the second, it was like the first. First mate, I think.
Right, the first mate, and she was pretty cool. She was tough and all that, and so she does the voice for this actress in that episode. And I will say that people are like, this ship doesn't look like a Star Wars ship. It looks like a Star Trek ship. It's all Star Trek. And like, okay, if you look, have you seen The Outrider? You know, the big engine on a wing for a big disc. Okay, this one's got 2 big engines on a wing on a disc. But the Outrider's got 1 already, which looks lopsided. And if you look at the Jumpmaster, it's kind of a lopsided. It's got that big, the cockpit thing on it as well. So people are like, it doesn't look like a Star Wars ship. It's like, really? Look at all the Star Wars ships. And maybe it could also fit the Star Trek universe. But I don't think it doesn't look Star Warsian.
No,
you know?
it definitely fits.
It does. It fits. It fits just fine. Heck, it would look like just about anything from Corellia, for goodness sakes, you know?
Yeah, we like discs. Corellia, home of discus. But anyways, this is a scum ship, and Ketsu Onyo, because she is a scum bounty hunter type person, who knew Sabine. And also there's actually a Sabine pilot card, which it was funny when they first released the article. They didn't have that pilot card in the spread, the picture. It didn't exist, but they had a link to where you could zoom in and look at the Sabine pilot card. And I was like, wait, what? They got a Sabine card, but when you look at the big picture, there's no Sabine pilot card. But you've actually got Sabine as a scum faction, so this is a cross faction, pilot here,
just like Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Do we want to go into the stats?
Yeah, let me go into the stats, because I got to tell you, I'm really kind of excited about this ship, Jim. This is a really interesting ship. It's very unique. First, I'll start out with just the basics. Let's go with the basics, which is just, what does it have? All right. It starts out with 3 attacks. It starts out with 2 evade. It has a whopping 7 hull points. A nice juicy amount of health right there. Yeah, that's going to take some punishment. And then a light shield generator. It's only got 3 shields, but I mean 7 hull is kind of cool. Now it has the focus option. It's got the target lock option. It also has an evade option. And
that is pretty good.
Yeah, that is really very, very cool. And then this last option, which I think is the options that I'm about to talk about, this ship introduces a very interesting firing arc. And if you look at the ship, if you look at the base, it's got, the square base is cut into 4 segments. So it's got those 4 quadrants, 90-degree angles front, rear, and both port and starboard sides. Now, it turns out that whoever pilots this ship, you start out with that front-facing arc, but you supposedly can spend an action, or you can use an action to change your arc. So instead of it being a full 360-degree turret like the Millennium Falcon or the Decimator, this is something where you still have that full range, but you have to make a choice on where you want to be able to shoot that turn, or, for multiple turns in a row. So potentially you could just keep this front firing the entire time. But if you find that really good moment to say, hey, you know what? If I move this to the starboard and I don't have to worry about getting them in my front firing arc, then that would be perfect. I could just fly straight ahead and maybe avoid their shots. It really opens up a lot of very interesting options, and it's something, again, that hasn't been done before. It's a new take on the whole 360-degree firing, and I think it's a perfect fit for Scum and Villainy. And also this ship, which if you look at it, it looks kind of like rugged and kind of interesting, and definitely has been through 1 or 2 fights. So I'm very excited about that, and Phil, I can't wait to hear your analysis of that too. As far as the upgrades, it looks like
well, let me go on about this mobile firing arc, as us pilots been calling it in the pilot lounge. That some people are saying, well, it seems to be a weaker version of the turret. I will say that the article states that the ship has been priced to kind of not be as expensive as primary weapon turret ships, like the Falcon, everything where it can shoot 360. Mm-hmm. But other people have been saying, think of it less like a weaker version of a turret, and think of it more as a empowered version of a fire spray or a Slave 1, where instead of just having a rear firing arc, you've got an auxiliary firing arc that you can change.
True. And you know what? I'll even go one further and say that I almost think that in certain situations it could be more powerful than a 360-degree arc. If you are really good at feeling out where your opponent is going to end up and where you want to position your ship, I feel like you could potentially keep your arc, forward facing on the enemy at all times if you're really good at this, which I think is truly going to be interesting.
Right, or if you're hugging the board edge and you've got your forward-facing weapons, and then you slap it to your left because you're on the right board edge. Mm-hmm. You're covering a pretty wide angle of the table.
Right, and I think this doesn't activate auto thrusters in the same way that a standard turret would.
Correct.
It would, yeah, because it's a firing arc.
Yeah,
this is your primary firing arc, and you're just changing it, which is you're absolutely right.
Right.
Now,
say what? Boom.
Yeah.
As far as the upgrades, I'm just going to quickly plug into here. It's got the elite pilot talent. It's got a crew, and then it looks like it has 2 illicit slots as well.
Right.
So that could be very, very interesting.
Did you go down the stat line, the attack?
Yep.
Okay.
Did the stat line already. So we got the 3 attacks, the 2 evade, the 7 hold, the 3 shields.
Right.
Yep.
Now, one thing I think is just kind of neat you can take Sabine, who is now Rebels, and this kind of represents her past with being Scum, which also opens the door for like a Han Solo Scum, but we won't get there. Because there's a Han Solo movies coming out after Episode 8, so anyways.
It'd be a great time to put out Scum Han Solo.
With two illicit slots, we can go into better ability later. You can load her up with 2 glitter stims, so you could make her really whacked out on drugs. You could take Sabine, and maybe this is like the alternate reality where she went down the wrong path,
a very dark path.
Yeah,
right. Or maybe this is before she got cleaned up, and joined the rebels, but. I always thought that was kind of pretty interesting. There is also it looks like a modification for this ship it looks to be this ship only, a gyroscopic targeting system. It looks like it says like pursuit craft only, and it says something about your mobile firing arc at the start of some phase. So it looks like with generics or with the special or something, if you spend the money for this modification, you might be able to get free moving your mobile firing arc at times without spending that action to do it.
Right. I think that's going to be pretty popular because spending the action to move your firing arc could be a real big pain in the butt. Because you're going to lose out. You spend your action, you lose your action economy to move that firing arc. And sometimes you may not be even guaranteed that it is even useful.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think we'll, unless that card is very expensive, I think we'll see it a lot.
Right, and because there are titles and such that we can go into,
There's also, do you see this illicit slot? It looks like rigged cargo or something, I think.
Yeah.
It says action and then something to drop something. And down in this paragraph, I think it says somewhere that its upgrades allow you to litter the battlefield with debris tokens.
Yeah,
right. You can drop debris tokens on the battlefield.
Adding terrain to the battlefield. Yeah,
it's crazy. That's completely new.
As a bomb type action.
Yeah. Right. And you can see this debris token up here.
It's a big token.
If you look at the top of it, there's actually a part where the maneuver guides can go in.
Yep. And it being illicit, it means pretty much anything. So perhaps the new Millennium Falcon or a Scum Hawk or, there's so many ships.
It's large ship only. You can see that in the
large ship only.
Yeah.
But still, you can drop, it's almost like a Connor net that stays.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. You could drop that right in front of somebody, in front of a formation.
Or in between two asteroids.
Cover. Yeah.
There's a lot of pretty cool things you can do with that. And that's one thing people online, a few people have been like, wow, that's really cool, but a lot of people have not stated. And I think that whole bombing option is pretty darn cool.
Yeah. There's also really cool options with the title and the palette here. So the enhancement was pretty easy with these. The Ketsu Onyo pilot card says, at the start of the combat phase, you may choose a ship at range 1 if it is inside your primary and mobile firing arcs. Assign 1 tractor beam to it. No dice involved. Just assign that tractor beam token.
And
wow.
And I will say one thing. If you have a ship, if you're good, and maybe it's a large ship, you can actually have it be in 2 of your firing arcs. So if you've got your mobile arc to the left and you angle it right, you could actually have one ship be in both, but have them in actually 2 separate angles. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you're not locked into just keeping your mobile arc forward with this ship, with this pilot.
And another thing they stated with this Shadowcaster or Lancer Pursuit craft is that it's got a super powered tractor beam, so that if you actually get tractored, your token doesn't go away at the end of the round.
Yeah, I haven't seen where that comes into play.
So
how
basically,
that happens.
You hit someone, and they basically have that -1 agility, until you choose another target.
Yeah, but what card gives you that ability? I wonder.
I think it's actually part of the ship. So we gotta release it more, but it talks about that. So they gotta save some stuff for later on. But that can be pretty powerful. And particularly if you can get some super crazy combo through on someone like Soontir Fel or whoever, and they're -1 agility. Like, that's fantastic, Yeah,
this ship, it's just the title card is also something that gives out tractor beam tokens. So it says after you perform an attack that hits, if the defender is inside your mobile firing arc and at range 1 of 2, you may assign the defender 1 tractor beam token. Again, you just assign the token. No, you have to hit the original attack, but other than that, there's no dice involved with that, the assigning that tractor beam token.
Right, and that's a 3-point title. And so we're seeing all these different things here with multiple attacks, with like the TIE Defender titles that are coming out, the TIE Special Forces, and this kind of thing where you're actually getting these multiple zaps on people. And, a lot of these people, they can shrug off 1 or 2 attacks, but the more attacks come at them, they tend to, crumple. And this is a really pretty cool title.
Yeah.
But there's also the whole Sabine. Do we want to talk about drugged out Sabine?
I think we're starting to run a little long for specific tactics like that.
Well, we could say, with Sabine, I'll go through. When defending against an enemy that is inside your mobile firing arc at range 1 or 2, you add an eyeball result. So basically, it's a 2 agility ship, but you can actually add in, another die result, kind of like advanced targeting computer. So if you have a focus token or glitter stim, or you get a focus pass to you, you can actually use that. Gain an extra evade die, or an extra,
evade
result. And so it actually, Sabine might have a problem with glitter stim in her past. Because you get 2 of them. It's awesome to use.
Yeah, that can be really useful.
And it works on her attacks and her defense, and her other two green die. So it's actually something that's pretty cool that Sabine can do. And, what else is there? And there's a couple crew involved. One of them's the Black Sun Slicer, which has an action. You use something about the hits or crits or something. We really don't know what they do.
Yeah, hard to say.
And then there's Latch Razzie, which is from the Clone Wars cartoon. She was one of the bounty hunters. She had the green bola boa, kind of the feather boa, but maybe the leaf boa. And she was a bounty hunter, and I think isn't she a pilot for the Houndstooth or something?
Yes.
Yes.
She's a YV-666 pilot.
So she's a crew, and her ability is when defending, you may remove one stress token. And we don't quite know the rest of it, but basically, it could allow maybe the YV-666 to park itself, always doing that zero red maneuver to not move anywhere, and she takes it away. So it's actually another really cool bounty hunter scum crew added to stuff. Right. So, and then the last one, which has been getting a lot of press, is some sort of IG, so IG-88 type crew. We don't know how much it costs, but it seems to, based upon what the text says, if you've got another IG-88 aggressor, brobot, whatever you want to call them, in your list, and you've got this crew, it's like having the title where you can use their ability, the other IG-88's ability on that particular ship.
Right. It's pretty interesting. And of course, this is going to be like scum only, but any ship with a crew slot is probably going to be able to take IG-88. So you could, have a YV-666 with a,
right.
with a, IG-88 ability of your choice.
Right, because if you look at
things.
Two of them, or is it three of them, you can't even really use the special ability, because like one of them, IG-88B, if you shoot with your main weapon
cannon,
and miss, you fire with your cannon, or fire with your... And so this ship, the Shadowcaster doesn't even have a cannon, but there's the fire spray, which could help, and there's also the Houndstooth.
The Houndstooth could definitely make use of that ability.
There's also the Segner's Loop one, where you can do a hard turn instead of a bank, and that's going to be like the Jump Master has that, but none of the others do. And there's also, if you boost, you get a free evade. So either you then purchase a modification that's engine upgrade, or you go, is there any of the other ships that actually has boost? I don't think there is.
Not native boost, I think.
Right, and so that's another one. So IG-88 crew might not be totally amazing for all cases on this particular ship it comes in, but it's great for all of them. I mean, imagine putting it on a Hawk. That could be a Hawk with engine upgrade that can boost it and get an evade token for free.
And also keep in mind that the IG-88 that you're getting the ability from is almost definitely not going to be getting your ability back, which is part of the strength of that, normal robots, that they get each other's abilities.
Right.
It's not going to be that reciprocal ability transfer.
And so that's where, and actually, you could see A might not be so bad, particularly if we move away from a three-ship list, which I think is just so trite and so tiresome. They have, look, 3 ships, everyone has 3 ships. But if you actually have beyond that, if you kill someone, you get a shield back. I mean, that could be pretty good. Like Dengar with that ability. If you give Dengar that fearless and punishing one and his little blaster bot, Astromech, he could be taking people down and getting shields back for. Like he's jousting them. Yeah. They're shooting at him, and he's just kind of regenning it. So
maybe add a gonk droid in on a 666.
Well, he gets
with
one
IG-88.
per...
I mean, on a YV-666.
Yeah.
There's definitely space for a gonk droid and IG.
There's always space for a gonk droid, no matter the situation.
Gonk. I love our gonk droid, I have to admit. I like that. I don't know who it was, whether it was one of you guys or one of the passengers that put those googly eyes on him. But I do like them.
It adds some personality.
It definitely does.
I do like our gonk droid. Cool. So, yeah, I think that, once again, Scum's got some unique pilots, some unique crew, all sorts of crazy stuff you can add in. And Brobots is called Brobots because you always fly two of them, and you never fly one of them. It's always two. But with this crew, you actually have the option to fly, one of these guys without two. It could be one aggressor on the table. And that's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that wraps it up for the current Wave 9 preview.
And I think for our particular episode, we had a number of things to discuss, but
yeah,
we
went pretty long on this, so I think we'll push those to next week. I guess we'll have to save the Mission 2 review for next time.
Right, we talked about doing a special news bulletin of this wave announcement, but when we looked at how much there was, it was like, no, we're going to go on for a while. All right, guys, so we'll go ahead and call this quits. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode. We hope it was interesting. I wanted, particularly when we make these news items, not to focus on just what's tournament effective, but like all the just different crazy stuff you could do with all the new ships in ways that non-tournament people might actually try to use these. So hopefully it was worthwhile. Hopefully it was fun. And you guys had a good time, and hopefully it was also informative. Thanks again for flying the Shuttle Tydirium.
Yeah. Welcome to Endor.
Yes, welcome to Endor.
It was a longer trip than usual.
Yep. Welcome to Endor. Now get the hell out.
If you go to Bob's Ewok Burger Hut, tell them that I sent you, you'll get a discount.
Are they still selling the Stormtrooper burgers?
No.
I mean, they ran out. I know they were running low a while ago, but then I know the Rebels brought in a bunch of Stormtrooper POWs, and I noticed that the Stormtrooper burgers came back into stock the next day.
Well, it's been a while. I didn't head back that way last visit, so looks like they do. You're more on top of things. Excellent. Try it with the pickles. It's excellent. But let's go ahead and shut J-Bot down and call it quits. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll catch you next time.
All right. Good night, everybody.